Hello, welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and we've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to learn about the Global Hemp Association by talking to its founder, Mandi Kerr, who's also going to tell us about the national variety trials that they're conducting around the country. And then we're going to dig in a little more on those variety trials by talking to Melissa Nelson-Baldwin, who you might know from South Bend Industrial Hemp in Kansas. But besides being a farmer, Melissa is also an ag research scientist, and her company Performance Crop Research LLC is coordinating the Global Hemp Association's variety trials. First, we'll take a quick sponsor break and then get to a few nuggets of hemp news and then into our interviews. This episode is brought to you in part by IND Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they are fully committed to the goodness of hemp. They've just redesigned their website too, so be sure to check out indhemp.com to learn more about the work they're doing. And you can keep up with IND Hemp in real time by following them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at IND Hemp. This episode is brought to you in part by Westtown Bank and Trust. Most banks won't bank hemp-related businesses, and many of the ones that do only do so behind closed doors. But Westtown Bank doesn't just bank hemp, they embrace the entire industry. Westtown Bank has developed a full suite of business banking and payment processing solutions tailored specifically to the hemp industry. Their team of hemp experts provides the personal service your business needs so you can feel unquestionably safe and secure banking with Westtown. Find out why hemp banks here by visiting westtownbank.com/hemp. That's westtownbank.com/hemp. All right, welcome back to our show. This is our news nugget segment. And, you know, the world is full of bad news, right? Everything brings you down. Everything is terrible. Look at the Supreme Court. Look at the politics. Look at everything. Look at the war. Look at pollution. There's so much negativity to focus on. But not here, not today. I'm not going down that road. I'm going to bring you two good news stories today. All right? And the first story is about our friends at the National Hemp Association and the Hemp Feed Coalition. So just last week, the National Hemp Association and the Hemp Feed Coalition announced that they're teaming up. They're forming a partnership to accelerate the goal of each organization to obtain approvals for hemp as an animal feed ingredient. The Hemp Feed Coalition brings their expertise and experience with coordinating animal research and completing animal feed ingredient applications, while the National Hemp Association will provide administrative support, advocacy, and outreach. The pathway to ingredient approval for hemp and its co-products is time-consuming and complicated. This partnership will help with the sharing of resources and result in a team that is greater than the sum of its parts. Okay, so that was from a press release sent out by the National Hemp Association, and I think this is great for many reasons. The first being that these two organizations are doing great work, and yeah, by teaming up, they can do even more great work. But also, maybe this is the beginning of a trend where we see, various organizations in the hemp space start to consolidate. Because, like everyone knows, we need a unified voice in the space, right? So I absolutely applaud this partnership, and I'm looking forward to watching the success. And here's another good news story. This one's coming out of North Carolina. And so I didn't realize this was the case, but apparently when they set up the hemp program in North Carolina, they had an expiration date on it, and that date was June 30th, 2022, after which date hemp would become illegal again, which is just crazy that this would happen. But here's a story from the News and Observer, and it's from today, June 30th. The headline says, hemp and CBD are set to get permanent legal status after 11th hour rescue by North Carolina legislature. Just 2 days before it was set to become illegal, North Carolina legislators approved a bill legalizing the production and sale of hemp. The bill now goes to Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, who hasn't said whether he'll sign it into law. The state Senate voted 41-2 on Wednesday to pass Senate Bill 455, which would permanently remove hemp from the state's list of controlled substances. Hemp was legalized several years ago as part of a temporary pilot program that was set to expire at the end of June. There are over 1,500 hemp producers in North Carolina, according to an estimate from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. These farms likely employ thousands of rural workers who could have been out of jobs if the legislature allowed hemp to become illegal. This bill does not legalize marijuana. A separate medical marijuana bill did pass the Senate but has since stalled in the House. All right, come on, Governor Roy, get that pen out. Sign it. All right, so just a couple of good news nuggets for you today. All right, so before we get into the first interview with Mandi Kerr, something else I want to share with you. So last week I was a guest on the Global Hemp Association's YouTube show. It's called Moving Hemp Forward with Mandi Kerr, and she interviewed me about, my thoughts on the hemp industry. And we had a great conversation, and you should check it out if you get a chance, if you haven't heard it already. But after that conversation, I got an email from a listener to Mandi's show who reached out and wanted to share his ideas with me. So I'm just going to read this. This is sort of like viewer mail. Remember that from the old Dave Letterman show? So this listener says, Eric, I enjoyed your chat with Mandi at GHA. You have a strong voice in hemp that can help hemp reach the future. I would love to chat about hemp legitimization. This means meeting all the rules, regulations, material specifications, and testing standards of the non-hemp materials we are trying to replace with hemp. After legitimization, we must compete, delivering higher performance at a lower price. Unfortunately, he says, hemp people are not ready to be legitimate. Hemp is not magic, and agriculture is a tough business. Many hemp people keep repeating myths and unrealistic ideas that make the non-hemp people disregard hemp as delusional, doing great damage to the future of hemp. Textile people think hemp folks are crazy because they know a decorticator does not produce a fiber as defined by ASTM D13 that sets standards for all natural and synthetic fibers, and that a mature hemp stalk has fibers that are too large of a diameter and are too stiff to spin a fine thread. Construction people think hempcrete people are crazy because the cost is too high, could never interface with the stick frame process that builds 95% of all homes, and requires building 2 homes in one since hempcrete is not structural. Energy engineers think hemp people are crazy because they have never done the FTC mandatory R-value testing that insulation must do, and their claim that hempcrete can be both mass and insulation violates the laws of thermodynamics. It would be awesome if your voice could advise hemp people to stop offending the folks who buy materials in the industries hemp must penetrate. I know that these realities are not what hemp people want to hear, but hemp will never be successful until it becomes legitimate in the minds of the non-hemp people who specify materials in the target industry. Thanks. Signed, Bill. So, what do you think of that? I think he makes some good points there. I don't agree with everything, but definitely some good points. I'm going to be talking to Bill next week, and hopefully I'll get to share that conversation with you. If you want to respond to this letter, please send me an email. You can always email me at podcast@lancasterfarming.com. All right, let's get into today's show. All right, first up, we're going to talk to Mandi Kerr, and then we're going to talk to Melissa Nelson-Baldwin. Here we go. Mandi Kerr from the Global Hemp Association. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me, Eric. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you with us. So first, right out of the gate, what is the Global Hemp Association?
We're a platform of entrepreneurs, manufacturers, farmers, distributors that have come together to support and build the industrial hemp industry, lift it up. So,
okay. And what are some of the ways that you do that?
Well, originally when we started, it was really about connectivity and building relationships and providing a platform where people could get together and answer questions. I was really taken back when I first started at the amount of people that were making the same mistake over and over again. purely because they weren't aware of who else was in it, who else was doing the same thing they were doing. And that really has morphed. As you know, the industry is significantly bigger than I would have ever thought it to be. And it just keeps growing and the opportunity keeps growing. And so it's really morphed into research, consumer education, on-farm education, business development tools, grant opportunities, research, things like that.
So people out there in the industry could get a lot out of joining your association.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's step back a little bit and first tell me some background of you. How did you get into the hemp industry in the first place? Where are you from? That sort of thing. Give us some details.
Sure. So I'm originally from Wyoming, but I've lived in the Salt Lake Valley since 2005. And about 8 years ago, I started hosting B2B networking events where people would come together and really to build business or revenue-minded relationships. And so while doing that, I kind of transitioned from hosting events myself to working for private companies, doing the same thing, building relationships or working to penetrate markets. And I was invited to a cannabis industry event. And at that moment, I was really taken back. And I always say it's when my aha moment happened. But I was standing out in front of the booth and I asked everybody walking by what some of the pain points were in the industry. And again, over and over again, I heard the same mistake or the same thing happening or the same advice being given. And so I really wanted to create an opportunity for people to get together and build relationships. I'm really passionate about people and connection. I always say it's like my superpower. I thrive on, helping people, build those relationships.
Okay. And then, so you said you had that aha moment at a cannabis convention. How did you then get to the hemp sector?
Okay. So, it was actually, I had an aha moment when I realized where plastics had really taken off is about the time that the hemp industry started to die or it died off. And so it really lit a fire or frustrated me. It really pissed me off. It made me mad that we all along have had a solution to a problem that was staring us square in the face. And nobody at this conference was talking about it. Everybody was talking about, cannabinoids or CBD or THC. And so right then it was that I wanted to put a focus where the industry didn't have a focus at the time. And not that, and as I got into it, you learn more and more, all of these associations started with fiber in mind, right? But the CBD market really is what helped the hemp industry take off. And so there was this big shift. So I stayed true. And for the last 3 years, we focused on fiber.
Yeah. Okay. When, for me, when here in Pennsylvania, we had, pilot programs, whatever, in 2017. And I saw my first couple of stands of hemp and I was like, we're doing it. We're going to start making stuff. And then when the Farm Bill was signed in 2018 and that next year it was all CBD. And I was like, no, wait, guys, over here, we're going to have to do the fiber. But you're right. It did a lot sort of for, to sort of remove some of that stigma of marijuana from hemp. But still, I don't think enough people know that we could be making everything out of plants. And, specifically this one plant is a really good option.
Yeah.
So my next question, and I think you sort of answered this already, but what motivates you to do what you do? You said that connecting with people is your superpower, but let's dig in there a little more.
Sure. I'm really excited about the fact that we have an opportunity as an industry, or I have an opportunity to introduce hemp as an additive to an existing manufacturing process, or to a company to improve their bottom line, or create a more ethically sourced or locally manufactured product that then increases profit margin from the farm to the end consumer. And so that's more where I get excited, as I've dove into this, that we really are helping people from farm to, the end consumer along every aspect by adding hemp into the business model or into the manufacturing.
Right. How has the pandemic shaped what you do?
I think it's opened up so many opportunities. It's kind of funny. I started obviously hosting face-to-face events right before the pandemic, and then dove in headfirst by hosting virtual events or live interviews during the pandemic. And I think that helped to open a network globally that I would have never had we not been in the pandemic, had it not forced everybody to go online.
Right.
But I think on the flip side, it also opened opportunity and awareness around better practices and more opportunity to introduce hemp, because people are paying attention to what is healthier or questioning what they've been told and what they know. And so, yeah, I think that it's benefited our industry.
Good. Okay. And let's talk about like the global aspect of your association. So you've got members all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually pulled up our report the other day on hemphallway.com, and we have 72 countries on our platform.
Nice. And do people in other countries face some of the same issues with the industry that we do here?
Yes, I definitely think they're looking to the US for innovation.
And do you think we're providing that?
Yes, I think that on some level, absolutely. I don't think that we're there yet, right? I think that we have really relied on or gone to other countries, Germany and Europe and different China for technology, but now we're getting ready to scale above what's been offered before. And so
I hope so, right?
Yeah.
Can you highlight any really interesting projects or companies that you've talked to, overseas?
I think Hemp Flax has got some pretty great technology. They also have some great harvesting equipment that's been pretty exciting.
That's the name of the company, Hemp Flax?
There's a great company, Ceph Fiber. They've done a great technology. They've got great degumming technology, which is very exciting. Josh is actually a member of our advisory board and done a very good job in the textile space, which has been really exciting, or we're seeing a lot of interest in the US. Obviously, that piece of the technology has been of question, or of the process has been of question. And so
it's
pretty exciting to see what they've got going and have been doing for quite a while.
All right. So let's get back to membership with the association and let's say there's somebody out there who's on the fence about joining your association. What's offered to someone who were to join?
Sure. So there's lots and lots of resources. We have a database of peer-reviewed data and of articles, both news articles, peer-reviewed data, different media sources that have been combined and are searchable and tagged. And so that becomes a value add depending on if you're looking for carbon or best planting practices. We've also put a map out where we've mapped all of our US processors, where we'll be able to see who is processing where currently, as well as expected volumes, so that then we'll be able to identify where farmers will be able to scale and know then where to access that data. We've also got a lot of research going on right now. For example, our fiber variety trials in 10 states, that we're doing 10 different varieties in each state, so that we'll be able to pull, data for production and volume, fiber variety or quality, seed production, when we see different data. Anyways, there's lots of data. Okay. I could go on and on, but that will be available for our members. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, and that you're working with Melissa Nelson-Baldwin from South Bend Industrial Hemp.
Yeah, she's the lead on our research, and she's done an incredible job. She's partnered or contracted with 9 different research consultants or crop consultants, which I find to be a huge value add, because they all have hemp experience. They're third party. They have experience as crop consultants, which validates a lot of the data. Not saying that we don't have a lot of data in the industry, but the consistency of how it's been collected and then how we can scale that data has just not been there. And so our opportunity to scale. And
so do you do anything with cannabinoid production, or you're all just focused on the fiber and the grain?
I shouldn't say we don't. We've done a lot of education. I've published 400, almost 500 interviews on different subjects with professionals across all pieces of the industry. And the majority of the industry, when we were in it, right, was really focused on the cannabinoid, or we're doing both. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, I had Franny Tacey on the other day, who is very focused on cannabinoids and the franchise and the business aspect. But as far as the research, we've been really focused on the grain and fiber,
Hmm. Okay.
mostly even fiber production over grain, because the Hemp Feed Coalition has done such an incredible job at focusing on the grain side.
So you said that you do events. Or do you have other like in-person events coming up?
I don't have any in person. We partnered and did the awards banquet with NOCO this last year. But I haven't. I've actually teetered a little bit on putting together a biofuels focused event. We've got a couple of people in our group that have really done an incredible job in the biofuels sector. And there's quite a bit of interest, but staff is always going to be it. And I really want to be sure to support those that have done incredible events. You know, Morris has done a great job at putting together industry experiences. And so I think the industry needs more collaboration instead of, birthing whole new opportunities potentially. And
So in the hemp space in the US, there's so many different associations. Do you think at some point that they all need to come together to be sort of more unified? And how would that work?
I absolutely think that we do. I think that we really need to at least be saying the same thing, and we need to be a place or create a platform where multiple associations, whether they're vertically focused or regionally focused, have a place to come and share that information or cross-share data. In other industries, we'll have a 501c4, a 501c6, and a 501c3, right? The foundation that's focused on research, education, consumer demand, one that's membership focused, and one that's lobbying focused. Our industry has 20, 30, 40 of the 501c6s, and we all have different information or different tools. And so our resources are being wasted. I'd love to see us come together under an umbrella, or maybe not under an umbrella, but linked as a group to where we can share and collaborate, but still, be a voice or a collaborative voice. I don't know necessarily. I don't feel like I can give an answer to how, but I can tell you the women that are in this industry that are leading collaboration are doing a dang good job at it. And so I need to give a shout out to not just our organization, but there are many that are led by women that are open to collaborating like we haven't seen before. So it's been pretty exciting.
Can you give me some examples?
Yeah. Hemp Feed Coalition. Morgan Elliott has done a fabulous job. Morgan Tweet. Jamie Campbell has done a great job. Melissa Nelson.
Jamie's with what, the Midwest
Hemp Council.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. South Bend has a huge farmers group. She's hosting, both her and Morgan are doing two fabulous education groups that they open up to multiple farmers to come in from multiple areas and then provide opportunities for collaboration and, shared research. I think that becomes very powerful and shows great leadership. And so, it's also risky when it comes to the competitive side of the industry. And so,
right.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that women are the ones sort of leading the collaborative effort here, is that part of the paradigm shift that we're all waiting for?
It's funny. I've never been one to talk a lot about, the women and the men in the industry, because I feel like, again, I always give props to thank you to the men that have supported in getting here, but there's definitely been a difference in the collaboration opportunity. And I think women naturally are good at working in groups and are collaborative. And so there's another great, like Erica Stark is fabulous. Also, she does a fabulous job. Courtney Moran.
Yeah, right. There's just so many smart and talented women in this industry bringing it together. So what else should people know about the Global Hemp Association?
We've collaborated with a few different partners. Friends of Hemp is a 501c3 organization. So we have pushed our research and our communication, our consumer demand research and education through the 501c3 with Friends of Hemp as an official partner to GHA, and then are working hard to build a farm arm. And so we've got some exciting news that we'll hopefully be able to talk about at the Southern Hemp Expo.
Okay.
Really developing the farm arm. And then we've put a number of applications in for different grants with large partnerships throughout the industry, one having 40 plus partners with different universities, other associations. And so really with an effort to show a national collaboration through efforts to secure funding for the industry and to help the industry grow. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that's great. So one last thing, where can people find you? You have a website, I imagine?
Yeah, globalhempassociation.org or friendsofhemp.org. And then on our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, Global Hemp Association.
Okay, great. And people can sign up for your newsletters and all that stuff.
Yep. Newsletter on the website, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We go live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then do one group interview a week. And those are all published on YouTube.
Wow. How do you have time for any of that? Don't answer that.
This is just where I live.
You live on YouTube.
That's right.
Cool. All right. Well, Mandi, it's great talking to you.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Mandi asked if I would also remind our listeners that they're still looking for sponsors and donations for these trials. The trial data will be available to sponsors by the end of this year, 2022, and will be for sale to the public in May of 2023. And Global Hemp Association members will also have access to the data. So there you go. You've got great reasons to become a sponsor, make a donation, and also become a member of the Global Hemp Association. You heard Mandi talking about Melissa Nelson-Baldwin. She's a farmer in Kansas, but she's also an agricultural research scientist, and her company is actually coordinating the trials and doing the research. So I thought we'd talk to her and really dig in on what this is all about. So buckle up. There's a lot of good information here. Melissa Nelson-Baldwin from South Bend Industrial Hemp. Welcome back to our podcast. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I guess the last time we actually spoke, I was on your farm last summer. We pulled into your open house in our big crazy RV, and I'm really thankful I'm not in the RV now. But it's great to talk to you again. I did speak to your husband a couple of weeks ago about planting, but there's a whole lot more happening at South Bend Industrial Hemp that I wanted to talk to you about.
Oh, so, yeah, we're rocking and rolling. We love the winter because we get to connect with people at conferences, etc. But the summer is really where we shine. We love being in the field. We love farming, and this is our busy time. This is go time.
Right. So I was talking to Mandi Kerr from the Global Hemp Association, and we were talking briefly about the variety trials that you all are working on together. So that's really one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about today. So can you describe this project that you're working on?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Mandi came to me last fall, and she had this vision of putting out a national variety trial. And the reason that she felt so passionate about this was she really wanted to give reputable data that had a solid foundation for data collection. So, for example, my background is a crop research scientist. So this is what I do for a living, is collecting data, really focusing on the details and seeing what maybe more than what just farmers see in the day-to-day operation. Like, I'm spending a lot of time walking fields, etc. So when she came to me and wanted to do this, I said, yes, I've got the perfect team to make that happen. We're working with research scientists within the National Alliance of Independent Crop Consultants. This is what everyone does full time. And so we chose crop research scientists that were either had hemp experience or a lot of experience within the research space. So this was not new to them. One thing that I was very passionate about was I wanted a high quality of data being collected. And I really wanted to utilize the data collection points that would be applicable to a farmer or a manufacturer, that they can use the data. Because there's so many people collecting data right now, but is it usable? Is it applicable? Is it going to help you achieve next season's goals or your product manufacturing goals? And there's a large gap in that area, and there's not a lot of data being collected that's really, really important.
Okay.
And then the last piece to this is, because we put it in 10 different locations across the United States, and we really focus and use the same protocol for every single location, we can now compare apples to apples from location to location and really find where varieties shine, the planting densities that they shine, and then when we can, see when they flower, when they're ready to harvest, etc. So that's kind of the foundation for the trials, how we got started, and it's really just hit the ground running since.
Awesome. I want to hear about the different kinds of data you're collecting, but first, tell me about the different locations, and then let's talk about the different varieties that you chose.
Yeah, so every location that we chose was strategic, okay? It either represented a growing region we think that would be very successful. It was a region that maybe was close to manufacturing or processing. So again, our farmer is going to be able to utilize that data. And then another important part that we chose was choosing different latitudes within the United States. So we chose South Dakota because if you're within the hemp space, South Dakota is a very strong emerging market with the amount of processors that are going up there and the amount of acres that they're having. Kansas, again, because of processors and the potential to scale. We chose Missouri because while it is a similar latitude to Kansas, the growing conditions are extremely different. The location difference between my location here in Great Bend, where I have a trial, and the facility in Missouri, there's 15 inches more of rain that's going to happen in Missouri. It's a different soil type. It's a heavier soil type. Soil was very much a factor in the locations that we chose. We also have Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, Louisiana, Texas, and I think that's it. I was just remembering off the top of my head. But yeah, those are the locations that we chose. Again, scalability was important. Who's going to utilize this data and how can it be incorporated into day-to-day operations for either farmers, processors, or manufacturers?
So talk to me about the varieties you chose and how you chose them.
Yeah, so again, we had very specific goals when we chose our varieties. We wanted them to be affordable, accessible, available. Okay, so there's a lot of varieties that are available, but they're really not affordable because when you look at starting to scale this, if you're putting in 100 acres, 200 acres, 120 acre pivot, you're not going to pay $15 a pound for seed. So we really eliminated the seeds that were on the very expensive end because we didn't see them as potentials for growth. We focused on American-based brands that are starting to bring their variety up and collect seed supply. So again, it's going to give them a side-by-side comparison for how they're performing with different heavy hitters in the market. We made sure we had the Asian genetics in there because those continue to be top performers in the United States. And then we also made sure we had AOSCA certified seed as well. And this was really a hot topic when we were putting out the sponsorship information, is because everybody believed, or not everybody, there were some people that believed very strongly that this should all be AOSCA certified. But as a farmer, and I put my farmer cap on when I was, kind of thinking about this, if there's no insurance and there's nothing to protect me, if I'm assuming this risk, I'm going to put the potential variety in the ground that is going to give me the highest yield so I can in turn have profitability. So right now, there's no advantage for putting in AOSCA certified seed. You're not going to get better insurance coverage. Like there's not, as a farmer, besides the feel good feeling that you have a blue tag. And so I felt like it was important that we represented the varieties that are being put in the ground. And as you know, those Chinese varieties are going in all over the United States. And so I felt like they deserved a spot in this variety trial.
Like Jinma, things like that.
Jinma, Puma, Yuma. We brought in some European varieties. We've got some Polish varieties. We've got some American-based varieties, which we are very excited to see how they're performing against the heavy hitters in the industry. We were very selective on those varieties and thought it was very important. And then to kind of blend in to year 2. So when we continue to develop this, because Mandi has this vision that this is not a one and done type thing. So we're going to take the data, you look at it, you analyze it, and then you make adjustments, you make small pivots, and then you move forward from there. So for example, if next year, let's say Yuma grows really well at your facility, and at my facility, it's a European variety, whatever that may be, Futura 75. So when we look at and start studying fertilizer programs next year, or maybe seed treatments, we are now going to not do a variety trial. We are going to take the variety trial, or we're going to take the variety that performed well at your area. And that's what we're going to base our fertilizer program off of, or our seed treatment trial. And so you would have Yuma and I would have Futura 75, because you want to limit your variables. That's one of the most important things when you're putting out tests like this, because you have to figure out what the reason was that something was successful or not. And so if you have so many variables that you can't figure out that reason why, then it really negates the whole purpose of the study.
Okay. Well, tell me about like the size of the test plots. Are these, you doing like half acre per variety, or, what's the size?
Yeah. So a lot of people, and again, we had some very intense conversations with just the general public on this. Small plot research is really, I think, where we're at right now. So most of these plots are anywhere from 6 to 10 feet, and they're 40 to 60 foot long. So, if you're doing the math on per acre basis, it's extremely tiny. As a trial as a whole, you're looking at just over a half of an acre.
Okay.
And you can extrapolate this data out, because at the end of the day, it's all dollars. You have to find a way to fund the project. And if you're asking a researcher to put in that valuable space, or even as a farmer, you're asking them to rent that plot of ground for data collection. The bigger it is, the more money it's going to cost you. And so people really kind of needed to understand how the cash flow works. Again, these people are very good at what they do, and they get paid as such. And so that's why it was so important for Mandi to get those sponsorships, because it really is a collaborative team effort to bring this to life.
Do you want to talk about those sponsors? Give them a shout out?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, I'm going to pull it up, because if I will miss somebody, and I don't want
then
to
you'll hear about it, right?
Yes. Well, and everybody plays such an integral part in this that I don't ever want to make anyone feel missed,
Sure.
because we couldn't do it without them. I couldn't fund this by myself.
Yeah.
When we first started, I was like, listen, I will do anything to get this project off the ground, because that's how much I believe in it. But thankfully, Mandi delivered, and she found sponsors, so I didn't have to sponsor the whole trial.
Yeah, I know from the trip we did last year that, sponsorship is key, because we couldn't have done that without our sponsors last year.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so, so important. Okay, here we go. All right. So for our sponsors, to thank our sponsors for the National Variety Trial, we've got Prairie Band Ag, which is located in Mayetta, Kansas, South Bend Industrial Hemp, because again, when you take off my research hat, we've strongly believed in the potential and the use of the data of this trial. IND Hemp, Ken Elliott and his team are always looking to advance the industry. Formation Ag, the same can be said about Corbett and his team. Almaco, which I was very excited. They're a machinery company located in Iowa, and they do small plot research equipment. And so I came to them and I said, listen, there's amazing potential in this market. So anyway, they were very excited about the project, and they'll actually be at our open house. Westtown Bank and Trust is a sponsor as well. AgriLead, which is located in Russell, Kansas, and their focus is biostimulants, biological seed treatments. So again, they're thinking long play, like how can we get involved with this? So hopefully down the road, we can potentially put seed treatment trials out. And then let's talk hemp as well to finish off our sponsors. Right. And we continue to gain traction. We've picked up some sponsors along the way. They're not published or anything like that yet, but we're very excited to continue to work with people. And if they want to be involved, reach out to Mandi.
Cool. A few weeks ago, I talked to Theo Wakabushcook from Prairie Band Ag. And,
he's amazing.
Yeah, he really is. And I love what they're doing. They're putting in one of those fiber track 660s. Yeah. Which you guys put in last year, right? And
yeah, we're pretty, I mean, if you follow any of our social media, you know that we're an open book. And so we just reached out to Prairie Band and said, if you ever need anything, stop by, give us a call. So we've had some meetings with them to talk about back end things, how we receive material, how we grade material. They came out and viewed our facility several times, how we set it up, just to kind of miss a couple of those potholes, that we had to experience, right, and help them get up and going.
That's the cool thing about the folks in this industry. It's like everyone's willing to share everything, right? Or it seems like that anyway. And
absolutely.
It just furthers the industry.
I'm a little bit of a bias, but I would love to see Kansas be a processing powerhouse. They're in Eastern Kansas, we're in Central Kansas. Let's get a facility in Western Kansas and let's just go to town.
Yeah.
But
you've got the space for it, right? And
there is a few acres out here.
Yeah, you know how to farm, right? You got some good farmers out there, so yeah, makes sense. I would like to see every state become a processing powerhouse because we need those local circular economies. And I love what, like, you at South Bend Industrial Hemp, like, you're the example of that. It's great to see. So before we move away from talking about the trials, let's dig in on like some of the data points that you're collecting.
Yeah, so data points that are very, very important to us. I'll just pull it up and then I can always be right. I got a lot going on in my head. And so if it's not written down, it's not happening up there.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm the same way.
So some of the data collection points that we are really focused on with this national variety trial is, one, we needed to make sure this planting density was the same in every location. And so that way, when we do these emergence scores, when we start taking stand counts, what is our emergence rate? When we got in all the seed from all the locations, I sent it off for third-party testing with the Kansas Seed Association Improvement Lab. Again, I wanted a base foundation where everyone had a level playing field for all these seeds, and we knew exactly what we were getting. Inert matter, noxious weeds. If any seed was subpar when it came in, it showed up on that lab report. I love data collection. That's what really drives us. So again, we're going to be looking at pest control. We're going to make sure we're recording all of our fertilizer daily weather data. We're going to do 30-year comparisons. So maybe you have an anomaly of a summer that allowed your hemp to perform extremely well or extremely poor. So that's what that 30-year data comparison does. Irrigation, if you're in a place that needs irrigation or has irrigation capabilities, that's all going to be recorded as well. And then we look at things such as the previous crop. We pull soil tests from every location. Again, for the assessments, we've got stand counts at 7 and 21 days. So what this is going to tell you is 7 days is how fast is that plant coming out of the ground. And then the 21 day is really going to give a better idea of maybe you've got some slower emerging varieties, but can they still perform well? Along with stand counts, you're going to be looking at vigor assessments. So as it's coming out of the ground, how vigorous is it? How green, how healthy, how aggressive of a grower is that plant looking in that plot? And then we're going to look at percent fill within the plot, because sometimes when you're looking at a plot and you're doing a stand count, it's really, you may have a couple rows that come up great and then a couple rows that don't. So being able to quantify your percent fill within that plot, very, very important.
Are you saying stand count?
Yes.
Okay.
Stand count. So basically you lay down a meter stick or a tape measure and you're counting every plant within a 3-foot section. And then you do several sub samples within that plot. So that way you can get an accurate representation of what that stand actually looks like. Flowering date, very critical. As you know, if we want to look at fiber varieties, if you're chasing the textile market, understanding when that variety is going to flower is going to be critical for your success. And maybe it has nothing to do with the textile market. Maybe it's just your growing season and you need it to flower at a specific time. So again, flower data, percent males, what are we looking at when we're seeing in the field? We'll do a disease identification and severity. And so if you're getting white mold, if you're seeing any sort of disease, and we're seeing a lot of mold potential in your more humid climates, we don't see as much here in Kansas, but you always keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, come to Pennsylvania and we'll show you some humidity.
Yeah. And so biotic and abiotic stressors, we're going to do plant heights right before harvest because that will directly correlate with your tonnage. Yield is taken, so pounds per plot, and then all THC tests for composite for every variety gets sent back to a lab here in Kansas. So again, consistency across the board. We want the same lab executing all of these tests for us.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, that's what they're collecting. They'll submit a report at the end of the season. We've got several, pictures are being taken because I think pictures speak a 1,000 words. We've got drone images happening at some locations that have that capability. So we just continue to bring in data and have points that we can really share and make it applicable to the growers in the industry.
Yeah. How will you share that once your data is ready to be published?
Yeah, so Mandi's really kind of leading that charge. My job is to collect the data from all the different locations, compile that. Our goal is, especially for our big sponsors, the ones that I listed below, they're going to get every subset of data. So every location, they're going to get every report, and then they're going to get a compiled report. So what is our view when we run these statistical analysis across the board from location to location? And then within those locations, what are we seeing? I know Mandi's got different levels set up for different sponsorships and then different release times, because we really feel like if you're one of these big sponsors in the trial, you should get this data first. You should get this data so you can make those great decisions in 2023. And if you're someone that just would like to look at the data and it's not really going to impact your day-to-day operations, those will be released for a lesser amount closer to the 2023 season.
Okay. Wow, this sounds amazing. And you have a background in this. Have you done any kind of trials like this with other crops?
Yeah, so I work with all your normal crops here in Kansas. So corn, soy, wheat, milo. I do specialty crops such as camelina, tomatoes, hemp, obviously in the CBD space, as well as the fiber and grain. We did potatoes this year, sunflowers. If you can grow it in Kansas, I'm collecting that data. So most of my clients, and a lot of people don't realize this, most of my clients are in the developmental stages. So these products that are coming to me are codes, are barcodes, and they're laying that foundation for when they are establishing that label that you're going to see at the commercial level for planting or different rates, different adjuvants, different timings, etc. I do all that work before it gets submitted to the EPA.
Okay. Wow. So I imagine that's a separate sort of business than South Bend Industrial Hemp. What can you tell me about?
That's performance crop research. I've been in the research industry for 10 years. I worked as a research scientist in another facility just down the road until I finished my master's degree. I spent some time in Australia doing contract work there. And so I really got exposed to a lot of different crops there as well. Everything from bananas to poppies, you name it. I got to experience it. And then I came home and opened my own facility and just have been running ever since.
Wow. You are just a wealth of information. This is great.
Oh,
yeah, you're like an asset to the United States hemp industry. So yeah. Before we shift away from variety trials, is there anything else you want to add or you want people to know about or anything?
If you want to come see the variety trials for yourself, we are having an open house July 8th. I would highly encourage you to come to our farm. We bring in vendors from all over the country. We have a huge benefit meal to really, all the proceeds go to Barton County Kids Ag Day because we love educating our youth about agriculture. And then we have field tours. And so we'll be able to go through, show you our commercial crops, show you these fiber variety trials, show you some other hemp trials that we've got going on in terms of herbicide studies and biostimulant studies. And so again, it'd just be a great educational event for you guys.
Yeah. Well, I was there last year at the second annual open house and you welcomed us in and yeah, it was just a great time there.
Thank
It was
you.
a challenging day getting there. That was the morning we woke up in Lawrence, Kansas with a plumbing issue, but yeah, we got there. I kind of wish that we had just stayed put and maybe camped nearby, because that night after we left, we were trying to get to the Colorado border. And I think it was around Hays that Hays, Kansas, these giant storms rolled in. And so I think we booked the very last room in Hays. So we stayed at a hotel that night because my kids were slightly terrified of these giant thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Just to be clear though, these variety trials are fiber and grain. You're not looking at CBD varieties at all in this.
Just fiber.
Okay.
Just fiber. Our goal is to move into grain our second year. I know Mandi is working on funding for that. So if you are extremely passionate about the grain industry, reach out to her, because we are starting to write protocols and prep for the 2023 season.
Okay, just fiber, right?
Yeah, just for fiber this year.
Okay.
Baby steps. You got to start small.
Right. All right, so switching gears a little bit, I wanted to talk to you about your social media presence, because if anyone's paying attention, they know that you guys are killing it out there. Like it's amazing to see how you can put the social media to use. So I wonder if you can offer like any tips to other people out there, sort of how to maximize their social media presence.
Yeah, I think it kind of offends some people that I go in with zero strategy. Like that is our strategy for social media. I'm just authentic. I share what I do every day. I share what the guys are doing every day. I don't plan any of our posts. This is just our life. And I just happen to put it out on social media so people can follow along. And the support that we've gotten and the people that we continue to meet because of social media has been a blessing. You know, for every negative comment, there's 1,000 positive ones, which really is strange on the internet. Most of the time, the negatives outweigh the positives. But it hasn't been the case like that for us. So if I had to give anybody advice for their social media presence, just be you. You know, we're very face value. When you meet us in real life, we are the same person that you see online. I've met people that haven't been that way, and it was very much a disappointment when I met them in real life because their social media presence was so much different. And so anyway, there's no gimmicks because we don't have time for that. And so the good, the bad, the ugly, we throw it all on social media. So
cool. Is there certain platforms that work better for you than others?
I think this is kind of aging myself as a millennial at the ripe age of 32. But I hate Twitter. I do not have a Twitter. People are like, you should get a Twitter. And I'm like, I don't have enough to say at all. And if I do, it's more than 160 characters. But Instagram works really well for us because pictures do so well. Facebook, and then LinkedIn, which again are totally different genres that we're capturing. You know, your Instagram is your younger population. Your Facebook is like my parents, you know, my age and up have Facebook. And so they're able to follow along that way. And then LinkedIn is just a more professional setting, which I cross post. I post literally the same thing on everything because we are what we are and we are who we are. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about how sort of the perception of hemp has changed in your general neighborhood since you've been doing what you've been doing?
We've been very thankful that Great Bend has always been very supportive. We had opened a bank account in 2019 with our industrial hemp company. We had to jump through some extra hoops, but there are so many people even today that can't get a bank to support their hemp operation. There are some farmers that we contract with on the processing side that they have to open a bank account at our bank, cash our check, and then transfer the money. What bank doesn't want to take your money is what I really don't understand. So thankfully, Great Bend has always had a great support system. With the law enforcement, they've been very active. They love coming out and learning, hosting training. We'll host educational events. The Kansas Department of Ag has been fantastic. The Kansas State Fire Marshal, who is the one that oversees our processing facility, he's came out and done a tour because he didn't know when we opened it over a year ago. And he really didn't realize the differences between the CBD processors and ourselves. So I appreciate the state of Kansas and their willingness to learn. Do we still have some legislative language that needs changed? Yes, but the legislative body, again, is trying. They came out and toured our facility and our farm last year. It was amazing to just have them wanting to learn.
Good. Yeah. So, education is the key, right?
Yeah. We've just had really good support. And I really credit to our transparency. What you see is what you get. I think it's also a credit that we're very well rooted in our community. So we're not fly-by-nighters. We didn't come in. We're not making all these promises. We really built this one brick at a time, and we're not going anywhere.
So wrapping up a little bit, let's again talk about the open house. That's July 8th at your farm in Great Bend, Kansas.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. So you can find more information on our Facebook page, South Bend Industrial Hemp, under the events. It's the 3rd annual open house. You can find it on our website under the blog information. We have workshops happening this year. We've got 2 workshops. One is a paper, artesian paper hemp paper is coming in. You can actually pulp your own paper, make your own paper. You'll leave with hemp paper for you to take home and write on if you want, or whatever you want to do with it. We've also got Ray from from down in Texas with the Hemp Building Network. And so he is coming up. He's
Ray
going
Catterley.
to have he's going to have a hands-on hempcrete workshop. And so if you want to be a part of either of those workshops, stay for the second day, which is Saturday the 9th. Those start at 8 and we'll finish around noon when we go and tour our fiber processing facility as well. So Friday the 8th from 5 to 9 p.m., come hungry. We'll have vendors from all over the country. We've got Phelan Dalton with his hemp building network. We've got some local builders from Dodge City. We've got 3D Vision with their 3D printer. We've got different conservation speakers coming in to talk about the importance of cover crops and residues and runoff and things like that. We're really just trying to make this a really awesome educational event. And then you can jump on the bus. We'll drive you down to the fiber field, give you the tour of that. And really, you can just see everything that we're doing here.
Yeah, I rode that bus last year.
People love it. People love the school bus. It's nostalgic for them.
Do people need to register or RSVP or anything like that?
Nope. We're roasting a whole hog. So if you want food, get there before the hog's gone. Last year we fed for 250 and ran out, and we had 17 different states show up. So we are very, very proud of what we're building here. We look forward to having anybody and everybody from around the country, or if you're just local, you're all important to us. So
cool. Come on down. Yeah. Cool. Well, Melissa Nelson-Baldwin, it is great to talk to you. I'm so excited for what you're doing, and you guys are just an asset to the whole thing. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I'll take all the support we can get. So I appreciate that.
All right, there you go. That's pretty much it for the show today. If you want to learn more about the variety trials, or you want to get in touch with Mandi or Melissa, I've got all that information on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com, plus links to those good news stories. And before we go, I would just like to acknowledge that today is the 1-year anniversary of the beginning of our national hemp tour. It was a year ago today that my family and I climbed into that oversized RV and we went on our trek across the United States, visiting hemp farms and processors and companies, and it was fantastic. It was terrifying. It was wonderful. And we met so many great people who welcomed us into their homes, onto their farms, into their businesses, just with absolute kindness. And I will never forget that. My family will never forget that. So I am absolutely grateful for that opportunity, and what a year it's been since then. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're a relatively new listener, go back and check out our past episodes. I think I published 10 podcasts from the road, and met a lot of great people, and it was, I still don't know how we pulled it off. So anyway, that's it for me. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. But don't take my word for it. Check us out online or get yourself a subscription. LancasterFarming.com. All the things are there. And also, hey, I started really putting a lot of energy into our newsletter. So if you're not getting our newsletter, please sign up for it. Okay? It's sort of a recap of the week in hemp. Who's on the show, maybe what's going to be on the show next week, things like that. Lots of links to stories. So please make my marketing team happy and let's make my newsletter subscription list go up. Please, please get them off my back for a little while. Wait, no, that's not, I don't mean that. Anyway, I'm out of here. Until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
Season 2, Episode 25 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2022 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, which is part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock, and the music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Burn Shadow.